Welcome to this Bitcoin University lesson. I am your host and online Bitcoin trainer. So thank you for joining me for this video. I'm going to go above and beyond in this video, and I'm actually going to take you inside of my accounts when it comes to Bitcoin and Bitcoin cloud mining. So I have had a very poor history with Bitcoin cloud mining, and I cannot recommend it for you as a new user. So just because I'm a Bitcoin expert doesn't mean I cannot get scammed, doesn't mean I cannot make mistakes. And if you're going to make a mistake, obviously a mistake that you want to make is the idea of making more Bitcoin and obtaining more Bitcoin through mining. So that was my goal basically, is to invest Bitcoin in order to gain more Bitcoin over time in the long run. And there are a couple of major players in this space who have purported themselves to be able to get you more Bitcoin than you're investing over the long run, and this is proven not to be the case. So I'm going to focus on three in particular. We're talking about Hashflare, we're talking about Genesis Mining, and we're talking about HashOcean. So I guess we should go in chronological order. So in 2016 was my first foray into Bitcoin cloud mining with the company known as HashOcean. So you can look this up for yourself, but Cointelegraph did a great job in the summer of 2016 going over the fall of HashOcean. And to this day, pretty much maybe the people got away, but nothing has really come of it. Some hackers have gone after them in order to basically steal the Bitcoins back, so on and so forth, in order to get them back to the Bitcoin community. But I put in about $500 just to run a test, just to see how HashOcean would work. And it was working in the structure of the $500 that I did invest, in that my $500 did grow to like $900 over the course of maybe a week or so. But the problem was, before I could take the money out, or before I could actually recommend this to friends and family and so on, I was running this as a test, and if it was going to work for me, then I was going to recommend this to friends and family. Before I could take my money out, they folded in June of 2016. So this actually turned out to be a good thing. So I didn't put my name on the line and recommend it to others. The reason why I invested with HashOcean is they, at the time, were the oldest, most trusted cloud mining platform in the community. They had been running their cloud mining platform for almost 4 years. They started in 2012. So this was one of the bedrock companies inside of Bitcoin, one of the oldest companies, and they had been in business almost 4 years before they basically turned into a cloud of dust and took everyone's Bitcoins that were invested. So it doesn't matter how long the company has been around. When we're talking about Bitcoins and how valuable they are now and how valuable they will be in the future, you cannot really trust third parties with your Bitcoins. So again, when you give someone your Bitcoins, they're no longer your Bitcoins. So it's the same thing as cash. If you go into a bank and you deposit cash into your bank account, it is no longer your cash. You are basically getting a promissory note that you will get the cash back, but it's up to the bank when that occurs legally. So legally, it is now their money if you made a deposit with them. Same thing with digital cash, same thing with Bitcoins. You make a deposit and you invest in cloud mining, now those Bitcoins belong to this company, and then they dole out the Bitcoins back to you at their leisure or at their discretion. So this is what was happening with HashOcean. It was working very well for almost 4 years until I got involved, basically. So maybe I'm the problem, but I got involved. I think I was in it maybe for a couple of weeks or what have you, just testing it out, $500, and I never got the $500 back. So this was the first problem, is HashOcean. Okay, so this turned out to be a very drawn out, long term, almost 4 year Bitcoin scam. So a lot of people probably over the first 4 years who moved in and moved out of HashOcean, maybe they made a great deal of money on the mining. Maybe they moved out in a better time than I did. So maybe up to 2016, it was a great investment. It was a great company to use. But in 2016, it was not a great investment. So it's also a matter of timing. All right, now let's move ahead to a current account that I have, which is with the company known as Hashflare. Okay, so with Hashflare, I've actually invested quite a bit. So we're talking over $10,000 invested. And again, this company has been around a long time. It's been at least 2-3 years, and they are still in business. They're not necessarily closing or stealing money outright, but you can see over 200 terahashes, which is a lot. So it takes over $10,000 to get to 200 terahashes. And I started this account earlier in 2018, and the pool is divided up between 3 mining pools. And here is the problem with Hashflare. I put in about 2/3 of a Bitcoin, and then a little bit more than that. So maybe we're talking about 3/4 of a Bitcoin overall. And they forecast how much you should receive on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. Here's 5/100ths of a Bitcoin on a weekly basis, almost $600 worth, on a monthly basis, and on a yearly basis. So they have 1-year contracts. Okay, so what you're doing is basically you're investing with them for 1 year. You put in your Bitcoin for 1 year, and then at the end of that year, you have whatever you've accumulated in mining that they have doled out to you. So they are forecasting over the course of a year that you would get back 4.2 Bitcoin. And again, as I said, I've invested about 3/4 of a Bitcoin. Okay. So that's pretty much it's pretty clear as day what they're forecasting here. The problem is, if you go into the history of the account, as you can see here, this is the amount invested and so on. The problem is the withdrawals. As we went over, every week you should be getting 0.08 Bitcoin. So 8/100ths of a Bitcoin you should be getting back every week. And here you can see these dates, the withdrawal amounts, it's every 2 weeks. This is May 25th, May 11th, 2 weeks prior, April 30th, 2 weeks prior. This is 9 days prior. This is 2 weeks. So more or less it's every 2 weeks I'm getting 5/100ths of a Bitcoin. So it is well short of what they are forecasting every single week. Every single week I'm supposed to get 8/100ths, and every 2 weeks I'm getting about 5/100ths. So what I'm forecasting as far as the rest of this year, again by January of 2019, this contract should be closed. I may break even. I may make a little bit of Bitcoin, but my Bitcoin is tied up with them for an entire year. So that is the problem. So again, once you put your money into these type of accounts, it's not your money anymore. It's not your Bitcoin anymore. It is theirs. And if they decide to make more profit or not live up to their forecast, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. So unless there's some class action lawsuit or anything like that, I basically should probably break even, but I'm definitely not going to make 4.2 Bitcoins. Again, as went over here, 4.2 Bitcoins in a year, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to get 2 Bitcoins in 6 months either. So here I might break even over the course of a year. So this is, again, it's a matter of what they're putting out there versus what's actually happening. Now, this may have changed over the last year or so. It's getting harder and harder to mine Bitcoins as we move further along in Bitcoin's history. So maybe when they got started 2 or 3 years ago, they were doing a lot better, but they are not mining as much as they are telling their users. So that is a problem. Okay. And let's go to the other account. Let's go over to Genesis Mining. Genesis Mining. Okay. So this is my Genesis Mining account, and I have received in dollar value over 6,000 Bitcoin, $6,000 worth of Bitcoin. Here's the problem with Genesis Mining. Genesis Mining, the upside with Genesis Mining is they have to send me Bitcoins. This is a lifetime contract. Okay, so it's not a 1-year contract. As long as they are in business, they are obligated to send me Bitcoin pretty regularly. And they end up sending me, you can see the payouts here. Let me see, go to the payouts. The problem is the payouts are very small, but every day there is a payout. So they are living up to their part of the contract. They are sending me a payout every day, but you see how small the payout is. So we're talking tens of thousands of a Bitcoin. Now again, with this one, back in August of last year, I put in almost a full Bitcoin. So it was almost a full Bitcoin, and they said at the time that I would get back about, I think in about 2 years, I would get back 2.5 Bitcoin. So the first year, I would break even. Actually, I would break even after 6 months. That's what they set it up, and that was what they were putting out there. I would break even in about 6 months, and then the next 6 months I would make about 1.25 Bitcoin, and then every year after that I would make another 1.25. So that's what they sold me on. So I would basically be in the black. Wait, maybe I'm not explaining this correctly. Um, yeah, I think it was like 6 to 8 months before I would break even. And then in the first year, I would get about 1.25 Bitcoin. So I put in like zero point 0.9 Bitcoin. And by the end of the first year, I would have back about 1.23, 1.25, something like that. So I would be in the black by the end of the first year. And basically every year I'd make about a 1.25 Bitcoin. So that's what I was told at the beginning. That's those were the calculations. That's what they were selling me on. And as you can see here, if you're getting 10 thousandths of a Bitcoin every day, you're not going to reach 1.25 Bitcoin in a year. It's just not going to happen. And I'm not going to get my 0.9 back. What I've actually received in Bitcoin, not in dollars, in Bitcoin, I may have received maybe 0.4, 4/10 of a Bitcoin. So far I'm down about half a Bitcoin. But again, this is a lifetime deal. So maybe by the time the last Bitcoin is mined in 2140, maybe I'll have gotten all of my Bitcoin back. In dollar value, I put in about 3,000 Bitcoin, $3,000 worth of Bitcoin at the time. And as I showed you, in dollar value, I have received over $6,300 in value, but that's not really relevant because Bitcoin value versus dollars is constantly fluctuating. So again, what a Bitcoin is worth now is not what a Bitcoin was worth when I got started. When I got started, a Bitcoin was worth about $3,000. So the values are not, you can't use dollar value as a legitimate way to judge this investment. It really has to be Bitcoin in and Bitcoin out. And another part of this being listed as a scam is they're not showing me in Bitcoin what I'm getting back. They're showing me in dollar value, which kind of masks the real investment value that I'm receiving, my ROI in Bitcoin. They're not showing me in Bitcoin. Okay. So they show you everything in US dollars, which will make it look better, but it's not accurate. And as far as the amount of Bitcoin I invested versus the amount of Bitcoin I've received, I'm not even at half the Bitcoin I was supposed to receive. And I've been in this account, it's about 9 months. So we're at May, I got in August, it's about 10 months now. So you can't judge these based on US dollar value because the Bitcoin value versus the US dollar, the exchange rate is constantly fluctuating. So it's not a fair way to judge your investment. But in actual Bitcoins received, I'm nowhere near 0.9 Bitcoin. And I'm not going to be anywhere near 0.9 Bitcoin for a long time. So basically, I've gone through 3 episodes I've had with Bitcoin cloud mining. And for these 3 reasons, with HashOcean, I lost $500 right out of the bat, right off the top. With Hashflare, they're purporting that I would get 4 Bitcoin or more. Earlier this year was like 4.5 Bitcoin. Now it's down to 4.2 Bitcoin is what they were telling you. But I may break even there. And here I may break even at some point in the future, but it's not going to be anytime soon. I'm probably going to lose the most money here on Genesis Mining. So for these 3 reasons, these 3 strikes, I'm out of cloud mining, and you should be out of cloud mining too. So unless you are in China or Venezuela or somewhere where there's heavily subsidized electricity, where you can mine on your own CPUs, I cannot recommend you getting involved in mining at all. It is getting harder and harder to mine Bitcoins, and you're competing with the world's fastest, strongest computers, the world's fastest ASICs miners. There's only 4 million Bitcoins left out there, less than 4 million to be mined, and you're competing with the rest of the world. And they have much faster, much more powerful machines than you do. They have subsidized electricity in certain areas of the world. So it's cost effective for them to use their computers for cloud mining. If you're in the US or the UK or somewhere where you're paying 6, 7, 10, 12 kilowatts per hour, it is not cost effective for you to use your electricity to run mining rigs all day long. You are going to lose money on electricity and you're not going to get a lot of Bitcoin back. So this should be enough to influence you to avoid mining. You're not going to make money with mining. You're going to lose money with mining. And again, even if you Genesis Mining doesn't even offer Bitcoin contracts anymore anyway, so you can't get into Genesis Mining. So they may have been legitimate. Maybe they were mining a lot more when I got started last year, and now they're running into all this competition and they can't keep up even with their massive mining rigs. It's not working out over time. So maybe they may go out of business in a year or so or what have you, because it's just so hard to mine these days. But I cannot recommend that you get involved in mining at all. It's just not going to work out for you. So unless you're in China or in Venezuela or somewhere where there's subsidies for using electricity, it's just not going to work. So hopefully you've learned from my story. And if anybody tells you that they can make 1 Bitcoin into 2 Bitcoin, they're probably lying to you. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. So especially in Bitcoin. But again, there's going to be scams in anything. There's been gold scams, there's been dollar scams, there's going to be Bitcoin scams. The only reason why there's scams in Bitcoin because Bitcoins are valuable, because they are real money. So people wouldn't be scamming you for Bitcoins if Bitcoins weren't valuable, if Bitcoins weren't legitimate. And that's part of the story. So I've fallen for it myself, and hopefully you'll learn from my experience. That's why you're here at Bitcoin University. Take my experience, run with it, and if I'm you, I would avoid Bitcoin mining. So thank you for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care.
Head over to yesinfo.org to learn more about cryptocurrencies.